I'd like to introduce Jeff Davis. I first met Jeff about 5 years ago when I first joined Toastmasters. He was visiting from college. He was on break, college break. And in these 5 years, not only has he finished college, he's gone on to get his master's, but he's also traveled the world. He's been very, very busy. He's visited, I believe, up to 50 countries, more than 50 countries. He has written a book. He has presented, he represented our district 53 at last year's International Speech Contest in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. And he's recently given a motivational speech, TED Talk in New York. And today, Jeff is going to tell us about the NSA, National Speakers Association Conference that he attended recently. I think it was last month in June, July. So please join me in welcoming Jeff Davis.
We're going to discuss today the power of just putting yourself out there, even when you don't feel like it. Today, I actually had a really lazy day. When I say lazy, I mean I just didn't feel like doing anything. I'm one to normally be the person to inspire other people or be the person to push someone along, but I normally like Mondays. This normally isn't the case for me, contrary to a lot of other people out there, or so I hear, but I was just so tired, but here I am. And as we were discussing before the meeting, I got energy from our conversation. So that right there is the power of putting yourself out there. The NSA conference is something that I wanted to go to for a number of years, but I was unable to afford it when I was younger. I was out of school and I was still finding my footing in terms of finding a job I liked. There was an NSA conference in San Diego, there was one in Philadelphia, and I really wanted to go, but I couldn't. And I finally got the opportunity where last year I was grinding, and Simon knows I had a contract role that was not the best fit for me, but I somehow really persisted to apply elsewhere, and Simon hooked me up with different recruiters. He gave me help. I got help from other members of Greater Stanford Toastmasters. There's lots of support. Found my footing, finally got a job I liked, mixing marketing and analytics, which was my dream role. And I said to myself, everything that I couldn't do in 2013 and 2014, I'm going to do in 2015. And this year has just been absolutely crazy, but especially over the last couple of months, I was traveling like crazy. I went to the Dominican Republic to help serve some of the homeless people who had no electricity. And then I got back from that, I went down to Maryland, and I spoke at a prison in Maryland, which was a pretty cool experience. And what was so challenging, though, about this DC conference is, as I mentioned, I was looking forward to this for years. And I picked up something, not an illness, but I picked up some kind of bug in the Dominican. It must have been the adrenaline that kept me going down there, because I was fine. But when I got back to the US, I was not feeling well. And I didn't want to do anything. Like, I was barely getting through the day. I'd crawl home, eat something, and just lay on the couch. And I remember saying, I can't miss this engagement I have in Maryland. I mean, I was looking forward to this prison engagement for so long, and then this was an example where I had to put myself out there. I told so many people I was speaking to the prison I couldn't say no. So I go to that, and I get back from that, and then that week I'm just done. I'm trying to recover, and I was that close to not going to DC. I was about to. Shep Hyken is the name of the president of the National Speakers Association, and I was going to ask him for a refund. And when I say I was done, I mean I'm an energetic guy. I'm not one to just kind of fall off the side and not fulfill what I said I would do. I mean, to the core, I was burned out at Dominican Republic, Maryland. I had another trip coming up to the ice falling there to Phoenix, and I was that close. And I said, you know what, I'm just going to go. I said, I have to go down to the NSA. And I was dreaming of this for so long. This was a dream come true to go down. And I left Branford, Connecticut at 10:30 p.m. I got to DC at 4:30 a.m. Got 2.5 hours of sleep, woke up, and wow, I'm around these speakers who I've been watching on YouTube. I'm laughing because it was like mind-boggling. It kind of gave me like, I'm not one to get really starstruck at all, but like you're like, what's going on right now? Is this a joke? Am I dreaming? And you realize that they're all friendly people, just like we are, and it's totally cool. But I remember going around, and the first day I was kind of getting my bearings, and I met a great guy from Singapore, Cohen Tan, great guy Cohen, and I'm laughing because thinking back to it, it was crazy. But I remember that second day is where everything happened, and this is what I want to share with you. Here's really the core of our discussion here today: the power of putting yourself out there. I mentioned Rory Vaden in a TED Talk I recently did. Now raise your hand if you are familiar with the story of Rory Vaden. He started out in Toastmasters, and he actually spoke over 304 times for free, because he was really chasing after his dream to be a paid professional speaker. And he eventually got second place in the World Championship of Public Speaking at like the age of 24. It was incredible. And he just missed getting first place, but he parlayed that experience into going out and speaking. And I emailed him before doing my TED Talk, thinking, this guy's busy, he's not going to get back to me. And it was actually the second time I emailed him, not about the TED Talk, but the first time was about something else, and he never heard back. It was something else I was doing. I was like, all right, he's busy. Emailed him the second time, and he said, sure, mention me in the TED Talk. So why am I mentioning this today? Because I remember how I was tired that day, and the point of this speech here is the power of putting yourself out there. We all have that tendency to not put ourselves out there. This doesn't have to apply to the speaking world. This can apply to your daily life with friends, your networking, your job, your acquaintances, your daily life. And I was in that hotel room, and I remember I was like, I'm here, I'm in DC, and I kind of wanted to sleep in, I wanted to take the day off, and I said, go down there. And I didn't know, here's the thing, I didn't know Rory Vaden was going to be at this conference. I probably could have looked it up beforehand, I'm just walking down the hallway, and I heard someone say, hey Rory, come over here, and I'm like, oh my God, I need to go, and like, I literally am not one ever to get like overwhelmed by talking to someone. Like, I'm the guy who'll just go up to the table and say hello, and it was like the first time ever I remember I was like my heart like skipped a beat, and I was like, oh, I have to go say hello to this guy, and I went up to Rory Vaden, and I shook his hand, and I said, thank you. And at first he just thought I was like Joe Blow off the street. But I looked him right in the eye, and I said, thank you for, I was like looking him directly in the eye, and I said, thank you for letting me use you in my TED Talk. I really appreciate it. It means a lot. And then he knew who I was, and he was like, you're welcome. And then we were just talking back and forth. And it was a short conversation. It wasn't too long. It was one that did, however, change my life. Specifically speaking, he was encouraging me to continue putting myself out there. And it was something I was doing already, but talking to him in person and hearing how he started with nothing, and how he had to scrap, and how he had to speak for free many times, and how he got all this rejection and getting laughed at and judgments, and it's one thing when you hear that from someone else, but when you really feel it and you really embrace it in the moment, talking to him, I really felt like, wow, this is a real, genuine guy giving me tips. And I just soaked it in for the 5 minutes or so we talked. And I said to myself, wow, what if I didn't come down to DC? What if I didn't go down from my hotel room? And it seems so simple, but so many of us will oftentimes limit ourselves because we're not putting ourselves out there. And I'm not saying to burn yourself out. By all means, find your balance, take breaks when you need to. But finally being at this conference after so many years wanting to go was really powerful. And I got inspiration. I'm an author, and I'm working on another book right now, and I recently talked to him on the phone. Raise your hand if you've ever heard of someone named Randy Gage. He's yeah, you look like oh, he's a speaker and author. And I didn't really know of him either, but yeah, you look him up. It was the final day, and it was after I was done talking to some of the other speakers. This one woman was like, "You got to talk to him," and I didn't know the guy from really a can of paint, and I'm like, "Oh, who's that?" And she's like, "Yeah, he's just casually speaking, he's like, oh, he's not only a multimillionaire, but he dropped out of high school, and after dropping out of high school, he went to jail, but after getting out of jail, he then bounced back from that, went through all these other personal setbacks, and now not only is he a best-selling author, but he's a multi-million-dollar speaker. He's spoken on the main stage of NSA. So I kind of remembered a lesson I learned from meeting Rory and how I just put myself out there spontaneously. And I went up to his entire table, and I was a little bit nervous, and everyone was looking at me, and I was like, Randy, I'd love to pick your brain about your success and possibly even feature you in this next book I'm writing. And he said to me, you know, I'll talk to you, not right now, but catch me after lunch. He was just casual about it, great guy. So I said, I'll catch you after lunch. Then I noticed Shep Hyken, he's the president of NSA, walking. And again, I had that, the part that you might relate to is that have you ever had that nervous feeling just before going to say hello to somebody? They don't have to be someone from the papers, but in general, the purpose of all this is to show the power of just getting past that nervous feeling and just doing it anyways, and just saying hello anyways, and shaking hands, and networking like crazy, and putting yourself out there, because I said hello to Shep Hyken, and I sent him a message on Facebook, so he knew me from that, and he was a friendly guy. He's an expert in customer service, and he didn't have really time to chat, but because I wanted to talk to him, this whole group of NSA speakers from Connecticut were sitting there. Now, this is my core philosophy in life. Now, this you can't even make this up. Mountaintop. That's my brand. That's on my website. My core. And what do I mean by that? It just means, it doesn't mean literally climbing a mountain. It means being yourself. It means being true to you. And when you follow your own truth and your own intuition, it'll naturally lead you higher and higher. And in each moment. In each moment. And I previously went to NSA-CT meetings as a non-member, as a guest. And I want to say this exactly how it was. I want to be careful with my words. No one was mean to me. So I want to be very precise in how I'm describing that meeting. But they were like, somewhat standoffish, but even standoffish is not the right word either. They just gave the impression like, oh, I'm a professional speaker and you're up and coming. And it's not, I don't want to say they put me down, but it was like a very slight patronizing, and it's okay. I know I'm a young guy, and these are all, and I was very respectful. I didn't, no big deal. And I said, all right, some people are going to be like that. And they were kind of saying, well, you can't really come to my house for the next meeting. These are only group members. And I said, oh, what about this? And they said, I'm really sorry, you're not a group member. And I was getting rejected. Now they see me talking to Rory Vaden, Randy Gage, Shep Hyken, all this group, all Connecticut speakers, and then I'm talking in front of them. Everyone's trying to talk to Hyken, no one get him. I just go right up to him, just probably the luck of crazy Jeff Davis. I somehow talk to Shep. And I didn't know they were all looking at me, but then that's what I mean by mountaintop, because they noticed me talking to Shep, and suddenly I guess I won their approval out of nowhere, because they're like, you came all the way from Connecticut to DC by yourself. They said, you've been watching you. I was like, what, you've been watching me? Like, it was like, I hope you're not stalking me or anything. They weren't. They said, we noticed you're talking to all these different people. And again, that's the power of putting yourself out there. Even when you don't realize it, there's power in it. And that's one of the key kernels of this speech here today, that a lot of times you do it and you don't see the immediate effect. And you're like, what's the point? But there is a point to it. Because they saw me all doing it, and they said, Jeff, not only do we want you to join our NSA-CT group, we want you to become, on the board. They asked me to join the board, and then they said, we want you to be the president too. And then they said, even, then this is your direct route to speak to the youth of NSA, and then that's your direct route to possibly someday even doing even bigger than that. I won't say anything more about what they said because I'm taking it with a grain of salt, but it was at least encouraging to hear that as opposed to the standoffish, patronizing vibe I got 2 months earlier. But that's mountaintop. You be yourself, you put yourself out there, and I didn't even know they were there. I was like, what? I literally had no clue these NSA-CT speakers were there, and it went from them like not inviting me to their house, saying, you're not a part of us, to, will you be our club president, and go speak at NSA in Phoenix Conference 2016 in front of hundreds of youth, because they knew that youth is one of my niches. I enjoy speaking to high schools. So I've even spoken to a couple of colleges over the last couple of months. And that for me was very meaningful, because I realized that tendency to not put yourself out there will halt where you're looking to go if it's the direction of what you want to do. So the whole point of this is that you can take the whole NSA story, great, and I finally went, great, and I met all these people, but the thing I really want to leave you with that's helped me and could inspire you as well is if you can just push through that little bit of anxiety, like I had such a bad day today, which I never do, and I was like, dude, am I gonna go all the way down to Norwalk? And then I remembered what Rory and Randy Gage told me, and I realized that their tips are still with me now. Keep on putting yourself out there, that encouragement, that inspiration, fighting that anxiety, fighting that feeling that I just want to crawl back home into a corner and I'm outside of my comfort zone around these people who I didn't necessarily feel comfortable with talking to. So remember, no one else is necessarily bigger or better as much as they think, as much as you may have thought they were by following them online. Yes, they're successful, but they're a person just like you. They're willing to help you out, whether it be NSA that you go to or even it has nothing to do with speaking and your own career choice, your own endeavors. Fight that feeling to just put yourself out there, network like crazy, and above all else, just keep on telling people what you do. You know, I'm a blank. You know, I'm a writer, I'm a blogger, I'm a speaker, whatever it may be. And for so many years, I would have to say I'm a blank, and I would get a blank response from people like, yeah, right. But then if you keep on saying it, keep on saying it, and then all of a sudden I'm speaking to Shep Hyken, and the whole CT of NSA is saying, come join our group. So the point of all that was I serendipitously was able to connect with people that never would have happened if I didn't put myself out there. So if you're ever afraid of going out by yourself, throw that out the window. Remember what Jeff said to you. You need not ever be afraid of doing anything alone, because you'll meet someone new, you'll make a new friend, something good will happen. Don't listen to the anxiety. Look at all the great that came from me coming here tonight. I made a great conversation, great connections, and I very much appreciate your time. Have a great Monday.